Hello, everybody. We are back for another interview with a Space Wizard author. And in fact, we had another interview not very long ago with this very same author. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi there. I am Rena Rockford. I write science fiction and fantasy for young adults and adults,
Yeah.
and typically whimsical, sometimes funny, often poking holes at the way we live our lives.
Yeah. And I think this one does just that. So we have the cover here, which is the almost final version of this one. So your book in this campaign is, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is Romance and the Gentle Art of Rocket Racing, and on the surface, you could boil it down and say that it's Scarlet Pimpernel in space with the gender roles reversed, which is
Yeah.
great. But it actually tends to spend a lot of time looking at how we build masks for ourselves, and then we
Mhm.
get kind of trapped in them in our own propaganda, and how difficult it can be for people to see us in another way. So it's a lot about how you present yourself becomes who you are, even if that's not who you are, and how exhausting that is,
Yeah.
which was definitely a theme in my life in 2020 when I wrote it. So,
Yep, I can imagine that. Yeah. And and like you said before, it's got a lot of humor in it. It's got those, great sort of, well, gender role reversal in it. Some great flirting back and forth. And we got, of course, some queer elements in it. So it's this one, I got both this and Mothball Magic, which is, I guess, actually at the time of this recording is not quite out yet. It's coming out very soon. But you're going to have two books coming out from Space Wizard back to back. But I picked up both of these at the same time because I just love them. One's fantasy, one's sci-fi, and they both are really good ends of the spectrum of what you write, which I think shows that you're a very, diverse and talented writer that you can pick up these different topics.
thank you.
Um, so for this one, there's a lot more. I don't know. I guess there is a lot more world building in this one just because it's more in space and you have to build all the planets versus the other one's more urban fantasy. Um,
Yeah.
So what went into that? It doesn't get into it too much, but there's some background about like the colonies and where humans are and how they're developed.
Yeah, so this takes place far enough into the future that some terraforming has actually occurred on some planets and has come to fruition. So some terraforming has finalized, but it's also far enough into the future where you have some failures in
Mhm.
terraforming. So the planet that our main character is from is actually a failed mining colony. So they had been mining on this planet, and then for whatever reason, it was no longer profitable. And it's alluded to in the book that the corporation just pulled out and left
Yep.
all the miners behind.
Uh-huh.
And so that's how this planet exists. And so this planet, because it was a mining colony, they have a lot of things that are around mines, like the price of gems is really low. It's very
Mhm.
undervalued on this planet, but things like plants and wood is highly valued because they don't have trees, because they don't
Right.
have evolved enough ecosystems to have trees on this
Mhm.
planet. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about what it would be like if we were colonizing space. And the first one was like, oh, we're going to have some corporation who fails and they're going to be awful to their people. Um,
Yeah.
which, you know, at the time of writing it was definitely feeling like, where we were going. Because nowadays we're seeing, people really having a lot of strife around the way corporations are sort of doing not great things in our society. And I didn't know that was going to be so prominent in the next 5 years when I wrote it, but
Hmm.
it definitely, for me, was harkening back to a member of my family was in a company town at the turn of the century, the previous century, I guess.
Yeah.
And they weren't just in a company town, they were in a company town where they were locked into their barracks at night. Some of them were
Wow.
chained into their beds,
Oh.
and they escaped this place and
Mhm.
walked from where it was all the way to San Francisco. It's
Wow.
a little bit more than 100 miles, and they walked through, some pretty rugged terrain to get out of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely some of that that's the background where some of these, you know, planets kind of come from.
Mhm.
And then the other side of that, so there's the mining company with the corporation who
Right.
isn't a great setup. There's the other side of governments where I was toying with the idea that not all governments are absolute and resolute, as we
Hmm.
like to
Yeah.
make them. So we kind of believe, especially in the United States, that, our government is this monolith that can't be brought down. It's too big. It's a juggernaut. It's going to always move forward. But in Romance and the Gentle Art of Rocket Racing, there's a government that's just like, yeah, you know what? We owe too much money. We're out.
Yeah.
We're gone. uh,
Yeah. And I really love that part because you see not only that, but you see feuding governments where like, no, we're in control. The other one's like, no, 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 we're in control. Pay us. And that was
yeah,
really funny. Yeah.
yeah, and you think about like when you get to that point, because there are issues like that. We've seen that, right?
Hmm.
Between World War I and World War II, there are quite a few of those.
Yeah.
And there's even a number of currencies. I do have some noise going on outside, which is really useful.
Oh,
Very
okay.
springtime right now.
No, not too much is coming through, so it's
Oh, good.
all right on this end. Yeah. But yeah, I love that where they sort of have to bargain with the two governments as they're coming into the planet and see like who's actually in control and how much are you going to get what you pay for, sort of, how do you bargain with the government if you're not sure that it's actually the one that's, in control?
And it's a real problem when you're having sort of the collapse of these large structures,
Hmm.
especially government bodies. And with I bring up World War II a lot, but there were governments that went into World War II that were very strong governments,
Hmm.
and they continued to operate even as everything around them is collapsing. And in fact, there's a discussion about how a couple of people made huge differences to large numbers of other people. They talk about the ambassador who was writing by hand visas
Hmm.
for people who were escaping, for instance.
Yeah.
That's somebody making a choice in a situation that is completely collapsing around them that made a huge impact on the world. And so, I wanted a little bit of a taste of that. I could never do that particular moment justice,
Right.
but
Yeah. And it's in there, and I like that you're talking about all this because when people pick up this book, they're going to read it and understand all this, but it's very subtle and it's in the background, and you can just read this as a, sort of jaunt through space. It's got a great story as it is, um, but also has some very cool world building elements in back of it, and you can see that in and it's in the clothes, it's in the culture, and I really like that about this, how it really informs the people and how they live in these different planets. And it's sort of you were I knew all this because I had read the book and I had read that while I was doing the developmental edit with you. But it's kind of funny because I talked with Chris earlier, and his book Gunmaker is about a mining colony where the corporation is in the process of like negotiating with the miners, and it's really funny. So if you know, people who are watching this, if you want lots of sci-fi, I guess, with mining and capitalist corporations, we got two books for you here. Very different ends of the spectrum, but both have some of the underlying, same concepts. Um, all right, so as I said, we got two books from you coming out. The first one is not actually quite released, but it will be coming out in about half a month, 2 or 3 weeks. And then this one will be coming out a few months after that. Let me look at my schedule real quick. Where are we at for this one? This one is scheduled for September. So early September is when this one will be coming out. Um, I think I asked about this the last interview I had, but I always like to throw it out there. Other interesting things that you have on your plate, or is there any sort of, sequel thoughts for this one or for Mothball Magic or anything?
yeah, I mean, there's always sequel thoughts. I'm trying to figure out where, whenever you're a writer, you're always, what do I do next? It's always
Hmm.
the big question.
Yeah.
And I do have a novel that's it's right on the precipice of going out into the world to go gather me some rejection letters,
Yeah.
because that's how it always works. But
Yeah.
with sequels, I haven't written them yet. I don't know what they would be for
Hmm.
either of those books. I know a little bit more for Mothball Magic what it would be, because it would
Hmm.
definitely it wouldn't be the old crew. It would be the granddaughter, it would be Jessica, who is in
Oh,
her 40s.
yeah.
And because magic is back in that world, suddenly she has magic. And what it's
Oh,
like to be in your mid 40s with obnoxious teenagers who now also have magic, and you
awesome.
have magic, and now your
Yeah.
life is completely, you
Right.
know, up in smoke, literal
Yeah.
smoke, because their magic is fire. And she has zero training in it.
All right. Well, something. So if you pick up Mothball Magic, something to think about with that one. Yeah, it's and both of those are complete stories too. Mothball Magic and Romance are also very complete. Like you can read them as a one-off. Um, I have this problem with one of my books because I have Fruits of the Gods and we sell at a lot of conventions. That is the book most often that people come back and say, "Where's the sequel to this one?" I'm like, "It's a standalone." It's
Yeah,
I do
I
have some
didn't write it
thoughts
like
for
that.
it, but yeah, I do have some thoughts for a sequel, but it'll come about sometime. All right. Well, what else have you got? Any other fun tidbits, Easter eggs, anything that's going on that's fun and exciting?
Yeah, so I mean, I do have some of my other books. I currently have Acne, Asthma, and Other Signs You Might Be Half Magic or Half
Right.
Dragon.
Yep.
And then I've got Prom Magic and Other Man-Made Disasters, and those are
Mhm.
all, both available on Amazon right now.
Yep. And
Um,
those are young adult or middle grade or
those are both young adult. Yeah.
young adult? Cool.
Um, a lot about identity in both of those books.
Hmm.
And And with Romance and the Gentle Art of Rocket Racing, there's actually quite a bit about it that's very much reminiscent of Formula One, because I'm a
Hmm.
Formula One fan, and so when they're
Yeah.
doing the rocket racing, there's actually a scene where somebody's griping about the rules, and the main character's like, "No, no, here's the rules," which is very Formula One.
Yeah.
So it's very Grand Prix,
Uh-huh.
um, which
Yeah.
I've been enjoying a lot lately.
I did enjoy that. So you will actually get some rocket racing. It's not just the romance. There is some rocket racing in there, and I did enjoy that. Yeah, it was there's a whole bit in the middle about circuit racing and some. Of course, it's in service of some events of the plot. But yeah, that's really cool. And we're actually the if you notice the cover, it's slightly different. We changed the rocket a little bit because we wanted to get something that looked a little bit more rocket-like versus this one's a little bit more like a plane. So that is not the quite the final cover. We will post it down below this interview so you can see the final cover and compare it to this one. Very small changes, but yeah, we like to have a conversation at Space Wizard with all our authors and make sure they get involved with the cover and have good say into it. All right. Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you. Um, and maybe we'll see you again for another Space Wizard interview at some point. Any last words you want to leave us with? Anything else?
Not that I can think of. Just, I hope everybody gets an opportunity to escape in a book and then, get to really feel what's sort of behind them. And I love that, in this book, there's so much, but I really love that I'm trying to think, all of the world building, just like um,
Well, there's the silk for one thing, which we didn't even really
yeah,
talk about, the butterfly silk, which I don't want to say too much because it is sort of a spoiler, but that I was I was really interested in that, and you had some good world building about how the genuineness of products and where they're made and um, sort of the difference between those two worlds too, because you have this sort of very natural terraformed world and you have the mining colony and sort of um, how products are perceived between the two.
yes, very much that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's I really love writing this book. It was one of my favorite books to write ever. So I'm just so excited about it. It makes me tongue-tied. I'm so excited about it.
Well, it definitely shows, and I hope everybody will enjoy it. So definitely check out the campaign. We've got 8 full books for you, and you can get a subscription that's going to get one of each. So you can get that. And then also we have our Tea with Books. so which we're just introducing, and Mothball Magic has two teas along with it, so you can also get your copy of that. And we have a summer and a winter tea that sort of matches the theme for Mothball Magic. So make sure you look at all that. You can get one or both or any of Rena's books in the campaign, as well as all the other ones. All right. Well, thank you for talking with me, and hope everybody out there enjoys the campaign. All right.
Thanks.
Bye bye.